Yeah.
As you guys were doing that, I was clipping my toenails.
Oh yeah, that's very important. But make sure, like, you remember, Gio, do you remember that Sopranos episode where Tony Soprano visited Italy and there was this sexy fox of a lady he met who said that she saves all her toenail clippings because they can be used against her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she ends up being the boss of the family.
You gotta incinerate those things or make sure you got a good handle on them.
Yeah,
a cautionary tale about romanticizing the past.
She reminded me kind of that porn star Aria Giovanni. I don't know if you guys remember her.
Oh yeah, I think I don't. Vaguely.
I'm unaware.
She had this. I know. I've always been interested in Italian women. You know, especially like curvaceous Italian women.
Take your fucking hands off them right now.
It's probably because I went to Catholic. It's probably because I went to Catholic school back in the day, so that there were some hot Italian moms there. You know, when I went over the birthday parties of some of my friends.
So I'm at Slavoid T.
All right, this is Shit Spouter 37.
This is Black.com build.
This is the Fed Post.
Went over the birthday parties of some of my friends, and the food was great too. Like, that's the one thing that I think a lot of public school kids miss, is having really good Italian food, which I got to do. I got to live vicariously through being a friend of this kid whose dad was in the mafia, so I used to come over his house and eat like Italian food with tomatoes right from the garden.
Oh
yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I remember saying like there's no good food, like only Asian and Latin people have good food and good women. And shout out to the Wignats. The Wignats corrected me correctly and was like, nah, we got Italy. That's still, the boot's still there.
Yeah, but Italians aren't white, bro. That's the thing.
That's the other thing. That's the real red pill that, few have yet to take. But this is the real red pill.
Swarthy brothers and sisters. I mean, just like generally, like if you were lucky enough to be,
oh god,
if you're like lucky enough to be born in like the Mediterranean, I think just that's just a good area for food.
Oh yeah,
generally, right?
And women.
Well, everything's fresh, unlike Scandi countries where I think it was BAP even said like they had to invent like complex sauces to cover up the fact that half the food was like rotting away.
So, they all have, it's like all like the high water mark is pickled herring. If your high water mark is pickled herring, which I like, by the way, like there's come on, like you're not competitive level.
Fuck.
Well, the Japanese have a similar thing called funazushi, which is like an ancient form of sushi, and it's all rotten because they put the sushi in with the rice and they cover it up for like months or years, or I remember a really long time, and then they take it out and it's just like this fish that's been fermented with the rice in it, and it's just like zombie meat, but they seem to love it. And I like fermented things. I think a mix of fermented and fresh is good. I mean, think of how much of our body is just all these little critters, all these biotics, probiotics and such.
Yeah, I like a good pickled food. I like a good pickled food for sure. I think one of my least favorite pickled foods is ironically pickles, to be honest.
Really?
I think
really?
I like pickles well enough, but okay, you know what basically is a pickle but does everything that a pickle does but better is a pickled okra. It's got a better.
I'll give you that.
Interesting.
Okra's a top tier veggie.
It has. Well, the funny thing is, I've never had okra in any form other than pickled, so I wouldn't even really.
Oh
know.
Yeah, you're from Seattle and shit.
That's right. I've had a lot of salmon and teriyaki in my life. That's basically
broccolini and shit like that, probably.
Broccoli raw. The okra, it's got, because it's hollow on the inside, and then it's got some kind of like popping seeds that aren't too hard though. There's more crunch. There's layers in it that a pickle just doesn't have. Pickled okra,
like a gusher almost.
Yeah,
it
except
probably contains some of the liquid in there.
Like a gusher.
Yeah, except without the cough syrup in it.
Oh yeah. Instead it's like pickling vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
Gushers were the thing, though, back in Catholic school as well. I remember there was that food counter. We got Gushers, we got fruit roll-ups, and I remember I even ate, because here's the thing, I was an immigrant. I came here. By the way, I don't know if we did a proper introduction or not exactly for the people listening who the fuck we are. So I should probably start by saying I am Lev Polyakov. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me and Gio to the Fed Post. It is a great honor to be here.
Yeah.
And I run the live stream series called Break the Rules, breaktherules.tv. That is how you find it. And our whole thing is we've been teaming up very online people together with very mainstream people and seeing what happens. But anyway, back to the Catholic school. So I was born in St. Petersburg, Russia. I came here when I was 4 to the United States. And I picked up English pretty quickly. It was around the time that Batman Forever came out that I was in this Russian Orthodox school that I used to go to when I was like 4 years old. Then I went to Catholic school. That's where I met my friend whose dad was in the mafia. And I didn't really know the culture that well, though. So I made mistakes like eating fruit roll-ups with the plastic still on, like not being aware that you have to take it off first.
Yeah, yeah, that is the classic mistake of being westernized, eating the plastic wrap.
Why is there plastic in everything? Why is it layered in here like that?
I mean, how much of a
Really makes you
difference is there
think.
really between the fruit roll-ups with the plastic versus fruit roll-ups without the plastic?
Well, there are plasticizers in the fruit roll-ups. I guess that's
Yeah, actually, to be honest, I feel like I've eaten the fruit roll-up plastic as well. This might explain some things about the podcast, to be perfectly honest with you.
The
Well, we're all
low-fi
pretty
texture
much-
of the pod, the autistic texture.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
It's
we're
our
all pretty much
superpower.
fucked one way or another. We're all kind of like in the island of broken toys here. I mean, that's if you subscribe to the idea that we're living in a fallen state. I mean, how many of you guys think we're living in a fallen state?
pretty obvious, though. I mean,
I think we're in the process
I think we're
of it.
falling. Yeah, I think we're falling.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
depends where you're at.
Unless we're talking original sin, then absolutely
of course. Oh, of
always
course.
was,
Yes.
right?
Leviticus, yeah. Revelation, absolutely.
Yeah, but
Syracuse just naming books of the Bible. It doesn't even know anything about them.
oh, God.
The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back. Pontius Pilate. I don't know.
The Sorcerer's Stone. What?
Palpatine Pilot.
Well, they were all based on Shakespeare. That's the important thing to realize.
Oh,
Hey, shut up.
so
God.
it is funny though. We're talking about this if we're living in a failing state, a falling state, whatever. I was on my way to get coffee this morning, and I did kind of like realize, I'm like, oh, like I forgot a mask, so I don't know if I'll be able to, give an enforcement with certain places. I don't know if I'll be able to get into like the supermarket by my place. So maybe I'm just going to get coffee, and I just kind of realized, right? It's just kind of like, I mean, it's the kind of small thing. That example there, but like the walls are closing in a little bit. There are more and more immediate alterations to your everyday life, and
Like the rainbow monkey with the dildo. In
we're
the
just coming
library.
straight into that.
What a transition. What a transition.
What is that?
Okay, so there was this London Library reading challenge for kids, and there was this whatchamacallit, Mandinga Arts company that did this event where they hired these costume performers, one of whom was, I assume it was a man, I'm not sure, it could have been a woman, dressed up in a rainbow colored monkey costume with protruding nipples and what looks like a dildo. And if I zoom in on it, it actually looks pretty realistic. Like it looks like it's darker, like it's redder at the tip than it is at the base. So pretty realistic looking penis sticking out of the monkey. So
There's
this
also
is,
kind of like pink streaks down the length of the dildo that kind of evoke veins a little bit. It's what this costume kind of reminds me of actually is something that like Nathan Robinson would wear, right? Like the what is the fucking the peacock outfit that he wears in these pictures? That's sick shit.
Oh, yeah.
It would not surprise me in the slightest if that sicko had something to do with this.
And now I'm looking at another photo. I'm not sure if it's the same monkey. It looks like the same monkey. I don't know, Gio, if you see this photo or not. It's the monkey in front of a little store, which is this German store. And it's showing its butt, you know, kind of like a baboon type butt. But all like the people around them, it's like there are these women, Muslim women wearing the veils. So it's a very, you know, now that I look at it, it almost looks like a joke. It almost looks set up. I cannot believe that this is real, just in terms of like the actual photo that was taken. I sent it to you in the DMs, by the way, for you guys to take a look at it. But it's just too on the nose, where we would have one culture from the Middle East, you know, with the women in the burqas, and then right next to it, you would have this like. It can't be real. I don't know. I refuse to believe this is real. It's too much. It's too on the nose.
Is this the rainbow monkey that was at the kids' school? This one?
Yeah. I don't know. It looks like the rainbow monkey.
Oh my god.
As if I need another reason to love how Italy just beat the crap out of England.
Yeah, those people are some degenerates over in the UK for real.
They've over-civilized themselves to death.
But to me, it's almost about not achieving the right balance, alchemically speaking. It's as if we have these two extremes. On one hand, we have the society where women are, you know, second class and they're covered in the burqas. And on the other hand, you have this very decadent society with these people going around with rainbow monkeys and dildos. So it's as if it's a very caustic environment where we can't find the middle way. We can't find the middle path. It's just like all extremes.
Well, and of course, I think both of those extremes are fueling each other, right? Like it's the perfect balance in the image, like you said. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we didn't see the kind of influx of like Muslim like refugees that the UK did, obviously, and so that's definitely got to be like a huge factor. I mean, the question is, right, because it's transgressing against a kind of puritanism around these types of deals. And like, I mean, I would think that we're already well into the territory of just like that kind of stuff is just dead in the ground. And so what are you even rebelling against? Like, what does this even look like 10 years from now? You know what I mean? What does that look like in your mind then?
Well, I also want to contrast before I answer. I also want to contrast this with, let's say, festivals like fertility festivals in Japan, for instance. You know, where they have like these chocolate dicks and stuff like that. Because when it comes to a lot of this stuff of a sexual nature, and we could say, you know, we can't separate fertility festivals away from sexuality. Sexuality plays a role there. But what we can say is there's a lot of this Nick Jr. tier colors when it comes to modern society, mixing up these very bright, very loud, and very stupid looking colors together with sexuality, the combination of which creates this Frankenstein monstrosity that's just, it just looks very disturbing, because like sexuality itself could play at very different levels. Like you have various anime, for example, you have One Piece where there's a skeleton called Brook who asks for women's panties, and it's just like, okay, yeah, he's like a pervert skeleton, ha ha. Like it's nothing. It's not the same as when you would have these demonic looking drag queens that are portrayed as being something noble. It's as if nobody can criticize it, While in One Piece, by the way, in One Piece, they do have like the drag queens, and they are seen as something, kind of ridiculous, kind of silly looking. And it's okay to make fun of them. There's not this same kind of sacredness that's used as a shield, which I think we're seeing a lot here in the West, where it's not just these very off-putting colors together with sexuality, but it's also the combination of that and that being used as a shield to prevent any criticism of it, as if it's like beyond criticism. And another example I saw of that was this Frank Hassel video where he was at a gay pride parade and he was following around this guy who was dressed in the bondage, like the dog bondage costume. You know the one I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yes, the pups, and that guy in the pup suit, and the guy who was walking him, they looked so serious. You know what I mean? Like there was this extreme seriousness to the way that they handled themselves. They could not bring it to make fun of themselves and to realize this is just so fucking ridiculous. Like yes, of course, this is funny. Like I get it. It's like, no, it was very serious. And I'm curious why you guys think that is, because that would kind of answer what I think is coming down the road. I think that if it's not stopped, there's going to be more of an emphasis on how serious and how kind of like quasi-religious all of this is, that it cannot be made fun of.
I think everyone has that problem to a degree now. I think part of it has to do with like this culture of being like trying to be the most educated and most knowledgeable person on any topic in the room at all times. It also extends over to like your own identity to a degree. So people are like not very comfortable with just like sometimes making a fool of themselves, or sometimes being in a place where they don't really look like the most like of high esteem. I think everyone could kind of use making fun of themselves a little bit more and taking themselves a little lighter.
Definitely. And that's what we kind of try to do with BTR, where we break each other's balls all the time. I mean, I know that Gio and I, we don't agree on certain things, and I love that. Like, it would not be the same if all of us were just in line. I mean, you know about that as well, Gio, right? Like, there are things that we don't agree with, but it's all...
But like,
yeah.
Well, what you were saying, I think that's indicative of the evolution of like the camp aesthetic that has really taken off into the mainstream, because it's such an easy tool of, well, I mean, I think it goes beyond just like PR and marketing, but it's just an easy template to sort of form a very like massified version of like global subjectivity. Now everyone's living in, what does E. Michael Jones call it? The big, the global gay disco or something like that. The global homogenous disco, if you will. So,
but didn't that disco, at least in its first instances,
global homo disco, if you will,
exactly. but didn't it in its first instances not treat itself that seriously? Like it was all right for
I mean,
PPS.
I mean, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is like John Waters, right? Like imagine if there was like a John Waters that were to come out of today's society, he would just probably be disciplined or whatever into being just as sanctimonious and like painfully earnest, I almost struggle to even say, as like your fucking Ava DuVernays and Hannah Gadsby's of the world. I mean, I mean, think about like Nanette, that Gadsby special, right? Where like, I mean, it's basically just like it's like a mixture between a TED talk and a struggle session that has nothing remotely to do with actual comedy, outside of the fact that the entire thesis of it is just that, like, because of her identity group, she cannot be expected to make self-deprecating jokes anymore because it's like reactionary or something. I think the answer that I kind of stick to generally in my mind is just that and I'm not entirely sure why, but I think we overvalue transgression, right? I think that we overvalue transgression, and it's kind of hollow. Like, that's one thing in Angela Nagel's book that I remember really liking, was she's just talking about just like, yeah, like transgression is it's kind of just a blank canvas, right? And so like, you know, when people saw like the dissident right come up online, it broke their fucking brain, because like counterculture and transgression was always like, that's something we do for the left, and it's something that's morally virtuous, right? You see this play out in all of these various broads that have academically studied punk rock online, right? You can't be a punk unless you follow this certain ethical code, and like, I don't really know that like Gigi Allen would have agreed with that, right?
What is going on today? I swear to God that the moment, like 1 second before you said the name Gigi Allen, I thought of Gigi Allen. There's some kind of synchronicity going on today.
Well, it might be due to the fact that this is like our third hour talking to each other now.
You're locked in now.
Yeah, we're on similar wavelengths. My heart goes out to COH and CRK, because they're jumping into the double Dutch a little bit late here.
I'm enjoying it.
To pick with CRT though. Sorry, CRK.
Gio, you know that's mad funny, because Mommy Milkers, Monica, I don't know if you guys have had her on. She's been on ours. She calls me CRT all the time, but she types it out. And I'm just
Mommy
like,
Milkers on Feb? Oh, I have to watch that.
Yeah, she was on once. Yeah. And she calls me CRT, and I'm like, is that critical race theory? Like, what is that? What is that for? But that's why I changed my
He's a
name.
good friend of mine.
It's class redux theory.
Well, yeah, well, I changed it to critical race killer. You know, that's what I changed it to.
Critical base theory. That could be the title.
Wait, but you were saying that you have a bone. You have a bone to pick.
Oh no! I mean, there was something about. Oh God, did my Canadian come out? God, no, about women working, but no, it's not a big point. I think when we were talking about transgression, I don't agree with the sort of take that people like. I mean, Nagel is right, but there's other people, you know, like Paul Joseph Watson, that say the new punk rock.
Is the right. The right is the new punk rock.
I disagree.
He looks pretty sexy as a woman, though. I don't know if you guys saw the Face app that here. I'm going to send it to you guys as well.
But no, I don't think that transgression is relative as such. I mean, there's a degree of relativity depending on whatever's the current like social gist. But I think that at the end of the day, there's something at the heart of transgression that isn't relative per se. And I think that when like people like us, like when like people like on my side of the aisle start to think in terms of transgression, I think that should be treated as, you know, within like post-modernity or hyper-modernity, that should just be treated as a temporary tool, and that it's really order that we're trying to, but that's even relative in itself, because I think that order is not something you can just like LARP till you make it. And
so you think
I don't know.
So forgive me if I lost the thread here a little bit, but you think that there is kind of an internal virtue to transgression in a way, like it's not just a blank canvas, is what you're saying?
I think that transgression is always at its heart in tandem with like the mother of chaos itself, but on a deeper sort of
creative destruction, kind of like Kali, for instance.
Yeah, but transgression's a means to an end. It's not the end in itself.
Yes, it's a utility.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that you know, we were talking on the stream, right, about like just how kind of bloated like academic institutions have become and everything, and I think that transgression like has probably like a really big part of it, right, is that I think like once something becomes like, you know, you get the sense the Tony Soprano moment of like, maybe we all kind of came in at the end of the story a little bit, and that when we came in, the frontiers were already conquered, right?
Yeah.
And so the best you can do is look back and kind of critique how those frontiers were conquered.
I still think that that's sort of a, how should I put this? It's sort of a Truman Show thing, where I think that we have this false illusion that the frontiers have been conquered, and maybe they have been conquered in terms of the frontiers of the known Earth. Although there's argument to be said about what's under the oceans, what's under the ground, you know, Agartha, all that kind of stuff. But
I am happy to hop into a sub and uncover the sunken city of Rilia and awaken Cthulhu for sure.
But this is all like the essence of what Baudrillard said in After the Orgy, the one essay, is that when you've sort of exhausted at least materially the capacity for transgression, then you have to almost invent ways in which you transgress. But the invention
who's saying inventing? Agartha's real. Agartha's real, dude. Nobody's talking about inventing anything.
Oh God.
Well, I mean, I think that when it comes to, yes.
What would be an example of manufacturing something to transgress against?
Well, I think that we live in a world where desire itself has become, I mean, this is like your basic Marxoid point, is that we live in a world where desire is manufactured wholesale, but also the desire for transgression itself against an imagined social enemy is also, and I know like a certain someone had this take recently who I'm not going to name, but he had a point. I'm referring to a certain, as a portly gentleman myself, you know who I mean. But he had a point about
was this perhaps a portly gentleman that we talked about earlier,
with an affinity for a certain German idealist thinker?
Yes, okay.
I think that it's apt what he said about, but it's kind of a basic point that the sort of social discourse around the enemies of the regime, let's call it, is fictitious because the people that they're rebelling against have no sort of actual material social power whatsoever, or cultural power, or even political power for that matter. Even during, I would argue, the Trump era, did they actually have material political power? I would think not in a lot of ways.
Wait, during the Trump era, who
well,
were
like, let's say the right, the trads, the incels, let's go down the gamut of, you know what I mean? I think that it's a lot of what's happening right now on social media, a lot of what is taken up as the hot button issue of the day is entirely being maybe not manufactured in a conspiratorial sense, but there's certainly a lot of different things that are out of human hands, let's say, that are going on. There's a lot of discourses that are being. Sorry, CRK, I'm kind of
No, I think you're right on the money, because this is something that I've thought about recently. It's like, I think we all sort of saw an Obama media lull coming, like that time where it's just like, they can't say anything. Once Trump's in, or someone who's not supposed to be in, then they're, every day is, threat level orange hysteria. But now that they've got somebody in that they want in, it's all peaceful and quiet. It's sort of under wraps.
I wouldn't say it's all peaceful and quiet, though. We've had various robberies that have been occurring, at least I think.
I don't mean like literally peaceful and quietly. I mean in their perspective, like the way they want to portray things, like things are going well now. So everything's good now.
Right. Inflation? What inflation? That's a right-wing talking point.
In their mind, that the world has been corrected and there's no real problems right now. I think in this space where it's sort of like a lull, this is where this is what I see, is people just saying shit that is just like off the wall. Just, you know what the incentives are. It's likes, it's faves, it's very measurable metrics. Say some crazy shit and you'll probably get more faves for it. If it's really like strange and controversial, or just, off the wall, or, counterintuitive, if you say it and there's just a little bit nugget of truth somewhere in there, you get fucking crazy faves. Like that's the whole game. That's the takeonomy.
That's why people like Alexander Dugin so much.
Lev, please. So in my country right now, he says these things just to piss me off. In my country now, we're literally like churches are literally burning by the dozens because of a non-event.
Which country is the great north of Canada.
Yes, of the first post-national.
Do we even know what happened to those kids? Because they had those graves they found, but as far as how they died.
They've known what happened to these kids since the 1920s. Okay, let me just really quickly, before I step on anyone's toes. I think that, of course, we should have just left them alone, in my opinion, to their own devices. But let's say what I mean by a non-event is that we've known that these graves have been there for quite a while, since at least the 1980s. A lot of those kids died from normal childhood illnesses that clipped a lot of kids before germ theory. And there was
so then
astonishing cases of abuses and so forth.
Oh, well, yeah, that's not good. The abuses aren't good.
The discourse around like mass graves and they honestly believe like the Catholic Church, and it's always the Catholic, it's never the Anglican Church, obviously, because they don't know the difference. They believe that, like, I don't know, we put them in, because when you hear the term mass grave, you think of like
the Holocaust.
You think of like Jews being bulldozed into pits, you know what I mean? But what happened was these graves weren't maintained over the years. They were basically paupers' graves, like a lot of destitute populations that die under the government care. And I do say government because the churches were subcontracted to raise these kids, because they basically, back in the day, churches controlled most of hospitals and schools and other what we know now as government institutions. But it really was the RCMP that were taking these kids, the Canadian equivalent of the FBI, put it that way. And so they were shipping them, which they really should have done. I think if they were to have kept these residential schools near the reserves themselves, it would have been different. But what I mean by a non-event is that for some reason, maybe because either inflation or the next election or some other like catastrophe that the media is covering up, because you have to realize in Canada, the media is at least partially state run because of our state broadcast to the CBC. They're really spinning a narrative that is deflecting blame from the government itself and towards the churches. And the sad part is a lot of these churches being burned are on reservations themselves that are attended mostly by Indigenous people themselves. And so what I mean by a non-event creating perception that leads to actual physical real world violence, I think that it's really indicative. I mean, it's really blackpilling in some ways, because to question certain narratives is nigh impossible. Like even just right now, like again, I'm as much against the residential schools as anybody, but what's happening right now and the fact that politicians and media people are supporting it. Like there was this person in British Columbia that was a high-ranking government official that was like, gonna burn more of them, like literally. So and apparently this woman was an Indian trying to LARP as an indigenous person. So that was funny.
Well, who are the people who are burning them down?
White Antifa mostly. I think maybe like probably a few native indigenous activists, but I guarantee you it's probably like the typical, college age Antifa
It's
people.
never the people that it's actually proclaimed to be for that are doing any of these things.
Well, this is interesting because this is something that I've wanted to talk about on the show for a couple of weeks now since the story came out. And I mean, I just because I wanted to kind of clarify it a little bit. Like you said, I mean, you kind of laid it out fairly well there. But so evidence of mass graves at a lot of these schools, and these schools were basically where you take you take native kids and you basically put them in these schools. It was kind of like you're civilizing.
It was like the liberalism of that day where they were trying to like white man's burden them. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically you find in some cases there are mass graves. In some cases you see I believe like indication and clues that indicating a mass grave. Like you said, we've known about these for a while. I mean, this was a practice that happened. I don't know if it was beat for beat the exact same way, but like we did this in the States as well, right?
Well, you did it to a much greater extent. Like you legit tried to genocide them, but I mean
USA #1 yet again.
Who's counting?
Well, I mean, I am because USA #1. But
the mass graves, there were grave markers because these kids. And this is another thing. These kids died over a period literally of 100 years. Like it's not. It was,
Well, and so this is just to finish my point. This
not to say it was right, obviously, but
this is the main thing, though, right? That because I was just talking with somebody about this, right? And like from what I understand, a lot of these kids, it's neglect and poor conditions. A lot of these kids died of tuberculosis and shit like that, right?
And typhoid fever and
exactly, which paints a very different picture than as we kind of just spoke on a second ago.
Bulldozing Lev's people in pits. Sorry, Lev. Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Oh, was this the kind of situation where the typhoid fever was something that could have been treated if people had the resources?
No,
Well, go ahead.
There was this one virologist in the 1920s that examined a lot of these bodies, and he said that the native children in indigenous, I have to say it because of my country, you don't
want to get raked.
So there was he compared indigenous children that were outside of the reservations to those within, and they were dying at a higher but relatively similar rate. Now that could be explained by the poverty and neglect on reservations and in residential schools, but I think it could also be explained by the fact that European children have more of a genetic tolerance to certain things because of their hereditary.
Yeah, exactly. Hence the blankets.
Jared Diamonding this conversation.
I think Jared Diamond actually did mention the North American indigenous people. Yeah. But I think that there was a horrendous legacy of abuse and neglect. And the fact that we did that in general is like a form of cultural genocide. But I think that to blame the churches when it was a government program, to me as a Catholic, is like, you know what I mean? Like I know what they're doing.
And not even just Catholic, but I see the interest that I have in this. I mean, outside of, what's happening with these churches being burned down is actively horrifying, right? And I think it's a really good example. I struggle to use the word good, but it's a good example kind of one thing that completely disconnects with leftists online, which is that their activism apparatus is exempt from having the law applied to them.
Yes.
And if they were to acknowledge that, the House of Cards, and at least in some capacity, would kind of come crashing down.
Think another thing too, I think. Oh, did I cut you off, Slav? I'm sorry.
You did. Hold that thought just to let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Point is, I see this as kind of a parallel to the Tulsa race massacre narrative going on stateside, in that these are both things that happened. Right. The Tulsa things, it's a little bit different because basically the new version of the narrative is being fully extrapolated by what's essentially just conjecture about
this Tulsa thing. I keep hearing about it, but I have yet to research what happened. They killed people, or what happened?
Yeah, so essentially, given the bird's eye summary here, town, I don't even know what fucking state it's in. Town of Tulsa,
Oklahoma? Right? Is it Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
I believe so. Yeah. Okay. There was basically a somewhat moderate district in this town of black-owned businesses, right? Mm-hmm. And basically, there was a riot surrounding the arrest of a black man, and basically a crowd gathered outside of the police station. Things kind of spiraled out from there. A huge fucking riot ended up breaking out, and like the whole neighborhood,
lynchings and all of that,
you name it, right? And the whole neighborhood burned to the fucking ground, right?
Oh man.
So you know, as is the case with most of these things, goes without saying, I would think, absolutely horrible, terrible thing, right? What's happening now is that, you know, I was actually talking to Marek, from Good Old Boys about this. He was telling me, you know, like just look up accounts of this stuff, you know, from even 10 years ago. And it seems like the most reactionary shit by comparison. The story's being rewritten at light speed right now, basically because conjecture of potential mass graves that haven't been uncovered yet. They were going to be inspected before COVID, and they still haven't been. And so basically what you're seeing is like the new Watchmen series that came out opens on a drama. Yeah, I know. Opens. I mean, this is like imperial myth making.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it literally is. It opens on a dramatization of the massacre, which again, I'm not contesting happened, but with this conjecture, the death count is up to like 300 or something like that, which is like several orders of magnitude higher than it had ever been, right? And so
just say it's 6 million at this point. Just say 6 million black people.
God damn it, Gio. Your father's right. Your father's right.
Shut. For those who don't know, my old man invaded the live stream once, and he's like, never mind. Calling me
No, you gotta tell it now. No, you gotta tell it.
I was fighting. Okay, so I was finishing a wood engraving, and then he's like, "You live right now?" I go, "Yeah, it's a Sunday." He's like, I like literally couldn't wrestle the microphone from him in time, and he's like, "Lev, I'm so sorry. My son's an anti-Semite. Don't listen to him." Because like my old man's a boomer conservative. Like,
but also your father offered a deal where he would pay $100 in Patreon money to do a debate about Israel with you.
Do you imagine me just faulting my old man on Israel?
Oh man, you're being very presumptuous
Lord
there.
Pendleton,
you're being very presumptuous there, Gio. That you're going to be the one doing the faulting.
You can't do that to your old man.
He's adamant about it, so I don't know.
No, but I mean, what?
Move on.
Yeah, segue. Fuck, anxiety attack. Okay, I mean, do we want to pick up what we were talking about dreams earlier? Because I know we were putting the pin into that.
I think actually I can relate one to the other, and here's how: the Galactic Federation. No, I'm not talking about Israel.
You were gonna say reading from my dream journal, 2015. I am a small Palestinian child.
Oh Lord. Okay. Well, actually, I am curious if I had any dreams about that, but no. Okay. So the point that
You
I'm
will
getting to
tonight.
when it's I will tonight. The point that I'm getting to when it comes to the Galactic Federation is I think that we are all in a dream, that we are all in a thought, that everything, like I'm one of these people who believes that thoughts are able to change reality. So I'm kind of, what would you call it? You know, it's kind of
idealist?
dumb. No, no, fuck idealist. I'm not an idealist. I think that our thoughts are able to, like, our intentions are able to change things to a certain extent, not to a great extent, but to enough of an extent that at least for our own lives, certain things end up happening. At least I've seen that in my own life, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. So when it comes to things being out there in space, being out there beyond us, I do think that all of it at the end of the day, if you go down to like what is the base ingredient of all of existence, I think that it is thought. I think it is ideas. I think it's this Jungian archetypical ideascape, and we are all these ego beings that think that we are separated even though we're all one, but that's intentional for us to feel what it is like to live this particular life that we're in. So back to the alien Galactic Federation, whatever you want to call it, I think that they are waiting for us to discover, at least according to that Israeli space guy, to discover what space is. Because according to him, we don't even know what space is. And I think one of those great leaps would be when we figure out that a lot of these things that we're experiencing in the dream world, astral plane, whatever you want to call it, that these things could be just as real and just as heckin' valid, for lack of a better term, when it comes to how, you know, what exactly all this is about.
Okay, so I want to ask a question immediately hot off the heels of that. When you say we don't know what space is, that statement is just an interesting premise in and of itself to me. What could space be other than how we think of it now? I mean, basically, I guess an empty parking lot of matter. Like, what do you mean by that? Can you speak to that a little more?
Sure. And keep in mind, I am not a scientist. I'm just, this is one of these things like that meme from JoJo, you know, this is bullshit, but I believe it. You know, it's one of those things. And what it means to me is that I think that space, and this is going to sound so fucking hippy dippy, I think space is like pure consciousness that solidified itself into this pattern that we're used to today.
Oh, that's
and I
so
think
fucking based.
And I think that we are all aspects of this
Space
consciousness.
isn't real. It's just a projection by the reptilian.
Yeah,
No,
like a holographic holographic projection or whatever you want to call it. But the point, like the reason why it's important for me to talk about this kind of stuff is that I've been having a lot of these meditative experiences, doing the Wim Hof method, doing various breathing techniques, where a lot of this stuff that they write about in the books, all these Hindu texts, they talk about the third eye, the chakras, all that shit. I'm able to see that third eye, or at least it looks very similar to the depictions of the third eye in a lot of these texts, where there is actually this bright light that you see in the center, and out of that bright light, various other psychedelic things start protruding. And to me, what that means is that human beings, when we said in the very beginning of the show that we are fallen, I believe that we are also fallen in terms of certain extrasensory abilities that we lost touch of, where if we were to regain them, that would be kind of like going back into the Satya Yuga. To me, the Satya Yuga, talking about the cycles of history, you would have the Golden Age, the Silver Age, Bronze Age, Stone Age that we're in right now, if we go by that. The Golden Age, Satya Yuga, would be the age of truth. Truth meaning that we're not going to be able to hide things from each other. It's all going to be very open. You're going to know what everybody around you is thinking at all times, because you understand that you are all branches of the same root. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that I want to get to.
You want to get to the end of Evangelion, where we're all orange tang together.
Exactly. Or orange tangy goodness. No, but it doesn't have to get to that level. It should at least get to the level where we understand that we are all one creature that's communicating with itself as a, pretending to be differentiated things. Because I do think the Bible, most people didn't even speak Latin, that the Bible was...
Give it time.
I think that a big part of what you're describing, and kind of a move towards, because it's Pandora's box, right? It's Pandora's box. You can't put it back. I think that a big part of what you're saying of moving towards a future of more unity and not like hands across America, but like Borg cube unity, but maybe less qualitative.
No, nothing that disgusting. By the way, I'm against a lot of that.
Well, that's what I was saying. Nothing qualitative like that. That's just the orange goo in Evangelion is not presented in a very good way either.
Yeah,
right? But you know, like in a way that isn't good or bad, but is right. It is.
But see, that's the problem. That's why the sort of the neoliberal regime has, in a lot of ways, adopted and sort of how shall I put this, profaned and inverted a lot of like new age mysticism to their advantage. I mean, corporate mindfulness comes to mind because you already have a ready-made sort of global consciousness that is integrated into the mindset of the hippie or the beats before them. Now that they've entered, like now that the boomers, when they solidified their positions in the corporate world and academia and so forth and government, they took a lot of those, they didn't completely abandon their hippiedom. They just sort of perfected the LARP to the degree that it can become a marketable thing that has a lot of beneficial, from the standpoint of a globalist, a lot of like beneficial aspects to it. And so that's my biggest concern with this preaching about some sort of global understanding or unity. I mean, as a rightoid, I'm inherently skeptical of that project.
I'm skeptical too. I'm not saying it's gonna work.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that all that new age shit, I think all that Orientalism shit from the boomer and beat generation, I think is just like a nice. I think
it was misappropriated.
Well, I think it's a nice coat of paint to update Western liberalism. You know what I mean? Getting a little more mileage out of your car by slapping a shitty coat of paint on it or something.
And a free Tibet sticker.
Exactly right. And
well, they don't have those anymore because Tibet is too problematic. So that's
it's because Tibet is right. So isn't Tibet like feudal or something? Anyways,
yes, it's a based theocratic monarchy.
Yeah. So fuck. I'm losing my train of thought. My point is, you're talking about this kind of unity for the future, right? And like,
in a way, but I'm not talking about kumbaya tier unity. What I'm talking about is
I know. People, we've addressed the like, you know, apply qualitative judgments at your own risk. I get that, right? Let me just get my thought out here.
Go for it.
Which is, you know, we on the stream earlier, we talked about McLuhan a little bit, right? And like media environments. And we had limited it kind of to just like social media, but like he himself had really talked about like fucking written languages as a media environment and things like that, right? And I think like what is happening right now with COVID and the ideological onslaught and all these psyops that's going on is a kind of like maybe cramming before the exam, hyper overdrive, working toward what you are talking about, that kind of unity that will not be judged as good or bad. And I think that it's kind of doomed to fail because it's existing in a media environment that just doesn't have the capability to achieve what we're talking about here. Now, that isn't to say that I think that future is wholly impossible, right? I don't know what innovation tomorrow could bring, but I think that as it is right now, right? I mean, basically what this overdrive and conditioning program is the same thing it's been the last few decades, just with like more and more and more MK Ultra fucking talking points just drilled into normies' heads. But I see it happening. I see that kind of. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say like I'll finish your point. I'm very sorry.
No. I basically was at the end. I just didn't really know how to like land on my feet with it.
I think you landed like a cat. So you did a great job there.
Beautiful.
Well,
the apex predator.
Yes, exactly.
The last point about people's sort of natural inborn eidetic consciousness has taken place to the sort of how shall I put this? The sort of like sloganeering and the linguistification of images themselves, because a lot of the images we're seeing in the era of the Chinese bat lung herpes, the Chinese imported delicacy, is the sort of the word overtaking the image in the sense of the
literacy.
Yeah, like it's a sort of like hyper literacy to the point of promoting unliteracy, if that makes sense, to where everything is mashed down into its component parts. So like, do your part, get the vax, stuff like this sort of cheap sloganeering that we find in a lot of different,
and that's a good thing.
Themes. Yeah, and that's I mean, of course in Canada, like the messaging is 10 times more insane than America. But
I bet.
But the about dreams, I think like the reason people are so captivated by, and even before this all happened, even a few years before at least. Of course, I was into Jung before the Lobster Man. Way before actually.
That's the dragon, bucko.
Yeah.
Gio, I got one fucking question for you, brother.
Yeah, go ahead.
You clean your room today?
Actually, yeah, I've been spending the past few days cleaning my studio, like rearranging everything. So
nice.
I think that like the reason people are so captivated by things like depth psychology nowadays is because in a lot of ways we're sort of forced to internalize that sort of I and me consciousness. And we're sort of forced to look inwards. And even what we're doing right now, like communication on the so with these digital interfaces, either through like Zoom or through Discord or wherever, or even text messaging, it's very much easy to disassociate the subjectivity of another person by running. Even when you're seeing someone on a face cam, there still is this uncanny valley aspect to it because our like literal, like hundreds of thousands of year old lizard brain is not used to seeing someone on a black screen. But when it comes... it's interesting when it comes to dreams. What I wanted to say is that dreams problematize a lot of thinking around, like, let's say 20th century existentialism and phenomenology, and also the new age shit, because it almost reaffirms a sort of like, if a philosophic point would be, it reaffirms like a sort of Cartesianism, because now you have the separation between who you are in a dream and who you are in terms of conscious presence. And you can't really reduce the subject to full presence because there's a part of you that is unconscious that can't be readily accessed at any given moment, the way I can like hold my hand out and grab a bottle of water, or I can vivisect myself in such a degree on a material level. So what this reminds me of a little bit is the I don't know if you guys saw, but this TikTok video of this woman who had neo pronouns indicated by her rubber wristbands. Yeah.
Which essentially, I mean, it has nothing to do with actual gender or identity, and it has everything to do with just needing to put a static name and title on fleeting emotions.
But that's the thing, like, that's why like existentialists like Sartre, like, famously didn't believe in an unconscious, because maybe there could be like some kind of like genetic affect there. But like, for example, okay, so there was this one phenomenologist, Merleau-Ponty, who had this thing about when you touch your hand with your other hand, you're still touching your hand, right? Like there's no reducible I of subjectivity that can separate itself in sort of like an objective way and say that, like, I mean, maybe if you like do the fucking you sit in your hand thing, but even still you can sort of feel yourself get touched, but you could still feel that it's your hand. You could still there's still that sort of what Merleau-Ponty was getting at was that, and I'm butchering it, obviously it's been years since I've read this, but there's always a consciousness of something. That's the basic phenomenology point, that consciousness is consciousness of something. But what Merleau-Ponty did is he took that further, and he said that consciousness always is in a totality among your body and your lived experience and your memory and everything. So there is no separation between a lot of these different things. And of course I'm butchering it, but what happens in dreams is that there's a very clear separation between experiencing yourself as a subject and seeing yourself in a third person lens. So dreams, in a lot of ways, if we were to take like the, more hippy dippy metaphysical explanation and say that dreams are
my explanation.
Like dreams are an objective thing, that where your consciousness is your soul is separated from the body in some respects, because now you're living an experience that's entirely internal and has no external element. But I do think that dreams in some ways do have an external element, because there is precognition and synchronicity and so forth. But that being said, it problematizes like material being itself, because there's so much other things going on in dreams. So yeah, sorry, Lev, I'll cut you off. Yeah.
Oh, no problem. So there was this guy who I mentioned before, Aryan Cowboy, who was on BTR. He's I'm flying my throat. He's been gone for a while now, rode off into the sunset on his horse. But back when he was on, he used to tell me, well, first of all, SLAV, he told me that he thinks that a lot of the Antifa people who are around Washington State, like around, Olympia, around all these, hive centers for Antifa, he thinks that a lot of them were possessed by the nature spirits there. That
okay. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Looks like he may have dropped out.
He did drop out. God damn it! What a fucking.
oh, there we go.
here we go. I'm back.
I was gonna say, I was like, what a
much.
fucking cliffhanger, dude. You had the alum of Evergreen College cutting your mic there.
Yeah, that was no problem there. I am back. So I'll
say really fast. It's very. Is this a good time for me to just interject a small little anecdote, or do you want to finish?
Go for it.
Okay, I was going to say it's just very interesting you said that because we've talked about Evergreen before. That's Evergreen College right around Olympia, right? And where your Brett Weinsteins are from and all that. And it's interesting because I've known a few people that went there. I knew people through that experienced all the weird hullabaloo over the last few years there. And you bring up natural spirits in that area that had some sort of possession. And it's just very interesting because I also know that those areas, I don't know if I believe that theory completely, right? But those areas do have like a really common tradition, more than the areas, a little further north where I'm from do of like bringing shamans in to kind of perform cleansing rituals and things like that. What was that?
Wendigos. I think a lot of them are there. Yeah.
Jordan Peterson, Wendo psychosis. Do not research.
No, do not Google.
What the fuck? Okay. All right.
With his whole meat eating and I'm not going to get into it right now.
It wasn't benzos. It was a Wendigo that possessed him.
Yes. No, but the point that I'm getting to with these nature spirits is you have in traditional shamanic societies, you have these funny looking masks that the shamans wear, where if you look at these mushroom masks or any mask, you would think, oh, what? Am I supposed to be fooled by that? Like if I was a spirit,
the mushroom.
Yeah. If I was a spirit, would I be fooled by this mushroom, funny looking mushroom mask? Of course not.
Are we gonna go on a logo dataless mushroom Wojak rant here?
Oh God, I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna save that for the expert. But
that's gonna be the anti-Oedipus stream.
Yes, exactly. But when it comes specifically to these masks, humans like you and I, if we were to see those masks, we wouldn't be freaked out. It's like, oh, some dude's wearing a mask. Keep in mind that if we were to go through this whole idea of these nature spirits existing, these would be the spirits of animals. Animals, they have instincts, but they're not that bright. Like they follow, they're like the fingers of the hand, so to speak. You ever see a school of fish making, tremendous looking moves under the water, or like a herd of zebras running? It's like all of this stuff, this is all instinct, but it's not like they're aware of it. So if they see some weird looking shaman dude wearing a mask, they'd be frightened. They wouldn't know, like, oh my God, this is like some horrible creature. You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't be able to be as rational about it as human spirits. So imagine you have all these drugged up people who come to the West Coast to a place with their fellow brethren of Antifa. They do a lot of drugs. I bet that they're very easy to possess. I bet that it's very easy for those people because I don't think they have strong willpower. And this is another thing, by the way, about what I think space is, what I think reality is. I think that all of this is also a battle of will. And if you possess willpower, then you can get further up the spiritual hierarchy, as opposed to somebody who's just like innocent, playing with his ball and, not really doing anything in terms of challenging oneself, which is why I don't necessarily look at people who have lived all their lives without, let's say, facing certain moral quandaries or dangers. And you could say, oh, they're such saints, they'd never hurt a fly. Or it's like they've never been in the kind of environment where certain things that they hold dear could be challenged. Wherein if you have somebody who was challenged, if you have somebody who did stare into the abyss and was able to come out and learn something about themselves, I say that is much much higher level of a human being as far as they were able to overcome these experiences, which is again why I think that ultimately this is all a human test. This is all a test for all of us in terms of whichever levels we are on to test our willpower. So that's the last thing that I'd say about that. But I just kind of want to tie that into the whole thing with Antifa, because I think a lot of those people don't have that strong amount of willpower.
Sure. I mean, I think that the idea that like someone has gone through their entire life without ever kind of having any kind of interfacing with their and forgive me, I'm not as familiar with Jung as maybe either of you guys are, but the kind of the shadow self, right? The kind of confronting aspects of yourself that are problematic or something like that. I think that there is like a lot to be gained out of that, right? And I do know that like probably the most important experiences in my own life have been times when I wasn't the person that I think I should have been, and actually learning from that. I think that
sharpens the knife.
Yeah, exactly.
Sharpens the knife. Yeah.
And I think that's a great metaphor for it. And I think that it's absolutely no coincidence that these exact people we're talking about, these Antifa types and everything, that moralism in like a pretty superficial idea of morality at that is such a huge part of it, right? I mean, that's my point.
And when it comes to I think that is a beautiful point.
Well, it's not relativism. That's the thing. It's a hypermoralism. There was this great article I think was in American Mind. I forget who wrote it, about how like when you are in a position of being rebelling against power, you end up adopting a form of relativism, a form of almost, you could say, postmodern ironic detachment from moral norms. But when you are in a position of power, then you become very moralistic in that sense. And so when you trace like the new left until now, then you can see very readily that the whole conservative bugaboo about the culture of relativism was just kind of like a misdiagnosis of the situation, because what was waiting in the wings was a hypermoralism, you could say.
And that's why
a really interesting point that I've never heard before. That's a good though.
I could look it up, but it was an article either in American Mind or I Am 1776. It wasn't my own writing. I sadly forget the article.
Well, it's always just interesting because the criticism of moral relativism that is a lot more common among your kind of like normie conservatives, but is one that has always struck me as certainly speaking to a certain level of truth, but one that it feels like a tiny little vertical slice of a bigger piece. You know what I mean?
Wait, there's conservatives that talk about moral relativism?
Yeah, as kind of the primary ailments of the West, like as that it decays things.
Well, there was also that guy. There was also that guy in that movie, The Believer. Do you remember that movie, Gio?
Oh yeah.
So in that movie, he was talking about how he sees like the Jewish scientists like Einstein creating relativity, and it's like, knocked everything out of balance. Like we used to be. But actually, in relation to that, there is a Jewish. I'm not sure if it's in the Torah or not. No, I think this is just like there is like a Jewish proverb talking about how God prefers greatly those people who have known like what it is like to sin, and then realized that they were sinning, and then amended themselves. Like
my favorite part of that movie.
I think that's actually a quote from the dragon in Skyrim. Actually,
my favorite part of that movie was he was talking to the journalist. He's like, "Us Aryan white men, we make women come with our cocks, but Jews, they got to make them come with their mouths." And it's like, what the fuck? Like that's an ironic, like Paul Nazi argument.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, man, moral relativism does lead to pussy eating, which I think we're all. We got a lot of diversity of opinion here, but I think
what
we're all
do you guys
united
think of the
on
pussy eating? I think it's kind of selfish to expect them to do it to you and not do it to them. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
look. Pretty soon we may get to the point where it's going to be Wild West time again, and we're just going to have a bunch of cannibals roving the streets like in The Road, and they're going to be literally pussy eating. They're going to be eating the pussies that are not able to make it.
Song "Addicted to Vaginal Skin." That could be like.
I don't know that we've talked about the Cunnilingus on the show before.
I'm curious to hear your guys' opinion.
Yeah, are you guys fans of sushi?
Uncle
June, stick to the bacalao. You want some sushi?
Dude, you're saying Junior's been whistling to the wheat fields?
He's a bushman to the Kalahari.
Yeah, that's what it was. Holy shit!
I'm so happy you said that. That's like my favorite line.
He stuffs the cake in that woman's face because he's just like going around talking about him eating pussy, and he's just like,
Bobby was hot for her age. Holy crap!
In this thing of ours, we don't do that. In this thing of ours,
why do you think? Why is it gay to pleasure a woman? Because it makes you look weak, you know. Well, that's a return.
I'll say to be the first one to jump into this hard hitting issue.
Not that I would know anything about. Never.
Knock it off with that shit. All right, knock it off with
Nothing
that
wrong
shit.
with it.
You sound like a Fed saying you never ate pussy. Come on.
Only a Fed would call himself an incel.
The Fed's been whistling to the wheat fields. All right. I can't go back to that well twice.
What if the Feds are the real Giga Chads and we're just like the soy jacks that we deride?
I think that's the truth. I think that's the hard reality.
Think of all the pussy the Feds were getting back in Occupy Wall Street, where they were pretending to be, these woke leftists back in the day.
Yeah, apparently Richard Spencer got never mind.
Listen, I think every time you eat a pussy, you're taking an L. Our whole species as men is taking an L. I think men should stop doing. I think men should stop approaching women. I think we should stop responding to women's advances.
Yeah. All of y'all, not me though. Leave them all for me.
Doing that when they come at you and they're like, "Oh, hey, what's up? What?" Nothing. Just be nothing is up. Nothing.
By the way, Gio, I did have a dream a couple of weeks ago where there were these MILFs in my dream. And there were sexual acts going on.
Maybe we had the same dream.
Maybe we did. But do you know what the name of their pussies were in the dream? They had a specific name. Yes, they had a specific thing that they were referred to as in the dream.
Well, what were they referred to as, Lev?
They were referred to as pods.
Pod? Oh my god! Oh my god!
I'm not kidding. This is
kind of like the Holy Mountain.
Their clits were bugs, so you're gonna go into the pod and you're gonna eat the bug.
The pod really is the cosmic mother. It's the consuming mother that Eric Newman about. That's eats her children. That's
Jesus
really what
Christ.
the pod is.
All right,
Exactly.
all right.
Well, Slav, what do you think of pussy eating?
I'm fine with eating pussy. I like eating pussy. It's fine, man. It's good. You know.
You just want to see their eyes roll the back of their head, and
I like sexually pleasuring a woman. I think it's satisfying. I think it's enjoyable. I think that the big thing
Wayne,
here,
Lil Slav Wayne.
honestly, that would be a funny episode name. What the fuck was I gonna say? No, I mean, I think that the big thing about I think that the acidity causing throat cancer thing is really funny.
Absolutely.
I don't really know.
Bullshit to tell you the truth.
Kings.
Wait, does it depend on their diet? Because if they have a different diet, maybe there's not going to be as much acidity.
They think because of HPV that it's
it's gone beyond that. It's gone beyond
mercury. It's mercury. It's the fish. Too much mercury is bad for you.
I like CRK is just full tricknology when we talk about pussy eating. I was gonna say I think now we're past the halcyon days of Michael Douglas talking about HPV causing it. We're fully into like vaginal discharge that is
Wasn't
found
he an alcoholic though?
Oh, I mean, probably.
Because that would cause throat cancer more than like apparently HPV ain't that bad for men. I mean, it's bad for women, but I don't know.
I mean,
don't take my advice.
It does cause throat cancer, but also
it's correlated, with certain.
I've had an experience where I was worried that I got HPV in the past. I was I was clear. I was good. But I remember because I know, right? I'm like I said, I'm a paranoid guy, right? So I remember I got the doctor's appointment and everything, and they were like, yeah, so I mean, like, you can get HPV in any number of different places and everything. But I remember them saying specifically, like, not that I was asking specifically about the throat, but they were just kind of going down, right? I mean, you go to a doctor, they're basically just reading you a fucking Wikipedia page, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
They went to WebMD.
Yeah, I don't respect doctors. But they're saying, like, cases of HPV, like fuck doctors, dude. The cases of HPV, like, in your throat are like really fucking rare. Really, really fucking rare.
If you're a lifelong smoker or drinker, I'd be worried about throat cancer, not eating pussy like it's in your diet,
Exactly. Now the main thing I want to get back to, though, the main thing.
Eating so much pussy is changing my nutrition.
well,
pH levels,
or like this one.
pH levels.
There's a rap lyric I like. It goes a little something like this: I'm an animal, Hannah Montanimal, eating girls out to survive like a cannibal.
Is it like an?
Is that from a Cormac McCarthy book?
No, that's from Sick Animation. I don't know if you guys Mark Adams, Sick Animation. He's a really good animator.
No, I'm not a racist or anything, maybe. But is it like an ethnic thing? Like, are certain ethnicities, like, do they have statistics about, like, are white men more likely to eat pussy, or is it like other races are not?
I'm gonna Babe Ruth call a shot real fast. I would imagine Jews eat the most pussy.
Oh, probably.
I would imagine that Jews eat a lot of pussy.
They got the hook and they get it down in there. It's a real nice tool.
Oh my god!
They got the knot.
There it is, boys.
The nose hits the clit if you think about it.
There's a mechanical reality there.
I got a hook. I don't even fuck with it. I don't care.
This is why we have to encourage women to have sex with fat guys such as myself, because it's kind of like riding the waves and it can just hit the right spots, Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of a waterbed situation going on. Yeah. Well, I'll say, I'm going to finish this fucking pussy eating point, okay? Because I need to speak my truth.
No, I'm not even going to ask Black. I'm sorry.
I'm going to fucking kill you. The main thank you, in Counter-Strike and Minecraft, whatever, right? The main thing about it, right, is that the need for a standard of cleanliness is higher when eating pussy than it is for sucking a dick. Okay.
That's very true.
All right. Ladies, I'm sorry. I'm sure that you're a responsible gal. I'm sure the life of, a working lady, you're a part of the labor force. CRK thinks that's good. I think that's bad. I think, you get home
we
from
have to get CRK on with Brittany Venti to argue this point.
Because you eat a pussy, you're eating internally, as a dick is external. So, it's easier to wash, it's easier to maintain. And internal, it's a hotbed for all types of bacteria, and, it's a completely different situation.
No, bro, I have no problem admitting, no, dude, you have a couple times where you go down on a broad and it's like,
Never.
Okay, like it's okay. All right, well, maybe you excluded.
I'm joking. I'm a hotep. I've never done that before.
I was just gonna say hotep. Hey, pharaohs, present pharaohs excluded.
Hey, we was kangs. We never did that.
I can't believe these white guys think that the receiver is the gay one.
By the way, we are gonna have Hotep Jesus coming in late August, so we're gonna have to ask him what he thinks.
Would you like to be on that stream?
Dude, that's a big snag.
It might be a little.
We've been wanting to get him on forever.
It might be a little weird because I'm a fake Hotep. I'm a poser. So it might be a little awkward.
We're gonna have Hotep Sophia on, definitely.
Ask him if he knows about white Hoteps.
Hey.
Okay.
No, bro, this
if
needs
he supports
to be
the movement.
This needs to be COH's first appearance.
Absolutely. Really well.
Are you kidding?
Yakub, Dr. Yakub.
They came from the center of the earth. Yes, these people.
He'll be the young Jamie to Hotep Jesus. 100%.
I think it's plug time, and God bless you, CRK, everybody here. You guys are
CRK,
beautiful.
Right Opinion, Haver, SLAV.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. This has been such an honor, and many great guests you've had. And I try to fastidiously listen to as much Fed Post as I can. But yeah, I mean, you're on my podcast rotation up at the top, so
that means a lot to me. Thanks, guys. Let's get plugs in for you guys one last time, and then we'll sign off.
Hell yeah. All right, so it is breaktherules.tv. When you go to breaktherules.tv, that takes you to our YouTube page. Give us a subscription, become a subscriber. Patreon.com/breaktherules. That is TH3. So instead of type in TH3 rules, break the rules, and become a patron.
And also follow my YouTube channel, Giant Productions. And I mean, if you go to my Twitter, you'll find everything to my Instagram and to other things.
It's youtube.com/Giant Productions.
Yeah, I recently had a video on this YouTube Pride Month like banner ad that was like about humans of flat design. Shout out to Eli Chef. So just you can find everything on my Twitter. I'm gonna make a link tree and everything. So
excellent.
Awesome. And Break the Rules Patreon.
And you could also follow me on Twitter at LevPo, LEVPO, and also go to my go to my
channel,
YouTube.
Lev Polyakov.
Lev Polyakov. Watch my animations. I also do
every
the Lev
Sunday
stream.
art stream.
Yes, Lev stream art stream.
And really, the art stream is kind of like NXT to Monday Night Raw because we field people to go on the main roster of Break the Rules during the Lev stream.
Yes.
Yep.
So
of course, buy your NFTs.
That's right. Yes. Superrare.com. I'm on there. I'm on Known Origin. So superrare.com. It's superrare.com/Lev Polyakov. I think it's all one word. Anyway, guys, you know the drill. Thank you so much for watching, and please support these fellas. Please support the Fed Post, and we're all going to grow together, and we are going to be the Overmen. Even if other people are going to be the robots, we're going to be the Overmen. We're taking over. You heard it here.
God bless. Goodbye.